Hello everyone, George here, Catholic Positive Energy. Nice to see everyone. I'm sorry that I'm coming to you very, later in the day, but I've had a lot of things going on today. Trust me, I wanted to come on earlier, but I was out of the house doing things, running errands. I just was doing a lot of very important schoolwork for grad school, so this was the only time to where it was convenient for me to be able to come on here and be with all of you. So I'm here, but like I say, and I've said this in my broadcasts in the past, I love this community. I'm very proud and very glad that I've made Catholic Positive Energy. And as you've seen, I'll still broadcast even if I'm on vacation. I'll still broadcast even if it's during the midnight hours. I'll still broadcast no matter where I am or what I'm doing, you know. Some of you are probably thinking, would he broadcast even if he was like in the Amazon or maybe in Alaska or Antarctica? Yes, I would, as long as I was able to, as long as I had Wi-Fi and I have electricity, then of course I will. But obviously if I'm not able to, then I can't in that sense. So, anyways, the name of this broadcast is Actions Have Consequences. See, I have a follower here, Laura. Nice to see you here. I'm very glad that you're here. Yeah. Hope I don't bore you to death. I'm kidding. Anyways, without mentioning any names or places where things have taken place, something that's being talked about a lot right now are the certain actions of someone who may have had a confrontation with another person, and now the whole world knows. I'll just leave it at that. I'm sure all of you know exactly who I'm referring to. Please don't mention the names in the comments if you're watching me right now. But I mean, like I say, I just wanted to be able to say something without saying anything hurtful. But realize, actions have consequences. Have you ever noticed something? And I was thinking about this earlier today. Have you ever noticed that when you watch the news or things going on in the world, things that the news media, the mass media are talking about, whether it's in a newspaper, I don't know if people still read newspapers nowadays, because everything seems to be digital on a phone, or you're seeing things on social media, or you're seeing things on TV. Have you ever noticed something, and I don't know if I've ever mentioned this in my broadcasts in the past, have you ever noticed that whenever you're watching news or things where you stay informed, it's always bad news, it's always tragic things, it's always negative things? Have you noticed you never hear this on the news? You never hear, this person did something very nice and kind for another person, or for some good cause, a good organization where somebody donated X amount of millions of dollars to a charity for a good cause. You don't hear about how someone did something very nice and kind for another human being out of the kindness of their heart without expecting or getting anything in return. Have you ever noticed, and I've noticed this, the things that people tend to talk about years later, decades later, centuries later into the future are normally bad things that have happened. When somebody died, when somebody committed a terrible act against other people, or, if someone behaved very badly out of anger and hurt someone. People tend to talk about those kind of things for years to come, but people don't talk about things into the future where somebody did something nice and kind for another person. I mean, I guess the only one I can think of is if you're Jesus or his mother, the Blessed Virgin Mary. Catholics and a lot of other believers, non-Catholics, still talk about those things, more about Jesus anyway. But what I'm saying is, with regards to ordinary human beings who have lived, who were known for doing good things for other people, if somebody did something very nice and kind for another person, people don't talk about it. People don't talk about it years into the future. I see something wrong here, don't you? The majority of people in the world have a tendency to want to talk about, think about, and pay attention to negative things. or when someone behaved badly to another person. I have 2 people watching me on the Facebook page. Please feel free to make comments about what I'm saying. Have you ever noticed that yourselves? That the news media has a tendency to talk about negative things that people do or people have done. I've noticed that. And there's this saying, I'm sure you've all heard this, oh, there's no news like bad news. Well, those are the things that tend to get people's attention or tend to be entertaining. Okay, yeah, but that doesn't mean that everybody likes that. I mean, I don't. This is one of the reasons, me personally, I don't watch the news. Because it's all bad news. It's all stuff that makes people unhappy. Some scandal. Something terrible that somebody did to another person. Some terrible gossip about somebody's personal life who was doing something really, really bad, and now it's coming out, and now it's out there. People pay a lot of attention to these kind of bad things. And this is one of the things that I see that is wrong in the world. I care about when people do nice things for each other out of the kindness of their heart, out of genuine kindness and love. I care about when people think of others, when people are there for others. But obviously, these kind of things normally are not entertaining to human beings, where they want to watch these things over and over on their phone or their iPad or their tablet or their computer. They don't always want to pay attention to, oh, this person did something very nice for another person, and it was really wonderful. I truly wish that a lot of human beings cared more about when other people were kind to them. Let me also get to something here. Let me just have a drink just a moment here. Talking a lot makes me thirsty. Now, the title of this broadcast is Actions Have Consequences. Now, I was recently... Well, first let me ask you a question before I get into this. Have any of you ever been involved in a situation where you felt like you were being treated badly, and you couldn't take it anymore, and you had enough, so you finally stood up and you said something or you did something where you felt like you were standing up for yourself and you felt like you were putting an end to these bad things that these people were doing to you, and then you finally did something, and then everybody was still against you, and you felt like nobody was on your side, that nobody backed you up? I have felt that way so many times, I can't tell you. I guess I'm an expert in that field when it comes to, being treated unfairly and when you feel like people around you don't care about you. When you feel like you're all alone. You feel like nobody's on your side. And you feel really betrayed and hurt. I can't tell you how many times people have made me feel that way. Oh geez. I can't tell you. I was, without saying too much, I was recently involved in a situation where I saw there were some people who I knew who they were bad-mouthing some people in their family behind their back, and they were saying some really bad things. And I had known about this for quite a while, and I didn't feel right keeping it to myself. I thought about it for a lot, so I let these people know. These are all people who I knew personally. I let them know. And I felt like I was doing the right thing, but now there are some other people who were a little unhappy with me for doing that. And like I say, these people were saying some really bad things about some other people in their own family that were not good. And I just didn't feel right keeping it to myself. So, like I say, there have been times in the past when I was much younger and not as aware or mature, and there have been times I've said things about people behind their backs, and I didn't want them to know, but I talked to some people who I thought were my friends who would keep it between us, and they eventually started telling people, and then they started telling people, and it eventually got back to the person I was talking about. and it didn't end well for me. So, actions have consequences. I want you to realize that. This is something I'm still learning. I'm not a total expert, but like I say, I am an expert with regards to knowing what it's like when people are against you and don't care about you and don't back you up when you feel like they should. That's something I know a lot about, unfortunately. But like I say, even when you feel like you're doing the right thing, even when you feel like your actions are completely justified, that's not how it always is to the people around you. That's not how it's always well received to people who you thought it would be. You know, like when you're saying something bad about someone behind their back, or you're telling someone, hey, these people over here are saying bad things about you, and I just felt like you should know because that's not right. Yeah, well, I mean, sometimes, depending on who you're talking to, maybe they won't hold anything against you, and they'll say, okay, thank you for telling me. I'm very glad you brought that to my attention. Sometimes it may not always end that way. Sometimes people will probably feel like, well, I'm going to be just as upset with you for telling me that, even though these people are saying some bad things about me or thinking bad things about me, and you're telling me, you feel like you're doing the right thing, but it's not always well received. And like I say, I think about this a lot. The actions do have consequences. Even if you feel like you're totally in the right, it's not always like that. Sometimes you might lose friends, you might lose family members, but you try to do the best that you can. And like I say, I mean, there are a lot of times when, you know, we talk to people and we feel like we're not doing anything wrong, or we feel like everything we're doing is right, and it's not always well received. Now, obviously, we can't live our lives in the sense where, like, oh, we can't talk to each other, or we can't talk to anybody because it seems like every time we do talk, or when we feel like we're doing the right thing, it's not always well received, so I might as well not talk to anybody. Well, that's not really helpful either, because then you're going nowhere. So, just something to realize, and because of other things going on in the world around us that everybody's talking about, and I won't mention names or anything else, I'm going to leave it at that. Actions have consequences. Like when we do something and we feel like we're totally in the right, and we feel like we're totally justified, and we're not doing a single thing that's wrong, it's not always like that. You know, I mean, there have been people, you know, there are people who get into fights with other people, and they feel like, well, this was totally justified because this person was saying some things to me or to someone I love. They were saying some nasty things, and I felt like they deserved to be hurt. That's not good. I mean, you know, even though that person may feel like they were doing the right thing or what they're doing was okay, it's not always like that, you know. Because let's say, let's say you get into a fight with somebody because they made you angry, they ruffled your feathers, and then you fought them physically. Yeah, and then you're face to face with the cops, and then obviously you say to them, well, this person was saying some disrespectful things to me, and I felt like they deserved, to be on the receiving end of a fight. The cops will never say, oh, okay, well then that's totally fine and it's totally understandable. No, they're never going to do that. So, especially when it comes to like violence or anything like that, an angry outburst, they always have consequences. Angry outbursts always have some really bad consequences, and I try not to have too many of those in my life, but like I say, the reason why there are people out here in the world like myself or my friend Holly or even the late Mr. Rogers is because I know this, and you should all know this too, because I've said this many times. We live in a world that is filled with negative energy. We really do. There's a lot of negative energy around us all the time. Whether we want it to exist or not, it's there. And I know, this is not a perfect world, but that does not mean that we cannot be overwhelmed with positive energy. Amen? We can be. We should be. And obviously, one thing that I want you all to realize, and like I say, I'm still learning this myself, actions have consequences. And we can't always promise that we're always going to do the right thing and never make a mistake or never displease anyone else. We can't promise that. I got to tell you, I wish that I could. I wish, and there have been times I really wish that I could have done this, like where I would talk, to someone who I really love and care about and say, I promise I'm never going to make a mistake at all. I promise that I'm never going to do anything to displease you. Well, it's going to happen, okay? I mean, it's going to happen. Even though you didn't want it to happen, even though you didn't plan on it happening, there will be times when you will displease those you love who love you. You don't mean to do it, but things happen. Things happen. And that's something we need to really fully understand. As much as possible, we don't like it when bad things happen to us, or if we always run into some kind of an issue. Like, I always seem to have an issue whenever I talk to you. I don't get any of this when I'm around other people, but it's only when I'm around you. If you're in a situation like that, then, maybe you might feel like, discontinuing your interactions with that person. Well, depending on what's going on, try not to cut them out that easily unless they are a toxic individual. But I've noticed a lot of people tend to do that. We need to try as much as possible to get along with people around us and not be so quick to want to write people off just because they did something we didn't like. I mean, if it was really intense and they bring a lot of sorrow into your life, okay, don't have them in your life. But if you feel that you could work things out, then try. But like I say, one thing I try to always do is I always try to do the right thing, but it doesn't always come across that way to people around me. So you can always try to do the right thing during the times that you're awake, and I hope that you will. But just realize, even when there are times that you might feel like you're doing the right thing with other people who are involved in something that you're involved with, it's not always the right thing to those around you. Realize that. If there are people in your life who you want to be a part of your life, who you care about, who you want to be friends with, or who you want to have that solidarity with, you really need to be aware of what they think, how they feel, and really ask them questions before you jump into something and do something. Like let's say, I love this. Okay, let's say, obviously I'm here, so let's say I'm your friend, and I really am your friend, because I care about all of you, I really do. Let's say I really want to keep you as a friend, and there's something on my mind, and, I just want to make sure that if I tell you this, or if I tell you what I'm thinking, I just want to make sure that it's not going to rub you the wrong way, or that it won't cause you to stop talking to me. Obviously I want to make sure that before I do anything, before I say anything, I want to make sure that it's not going to ruin our friendship. I can't tell you how many times I wish I would have known that before I did something, but I know it now. Like I say, I don't want to lose any people in my life who I have as a part of my life, which is why I try to be very careful, but sometimes it's not good enough for some people, I have known some people, and I have had some family members who cut me out of their lives, for really ridiculous reasons. It's like no matter what I do, I wouldn't be good enough for them. But I didn't lose them, they lost me. So basically my point is, what I want your takeaway to be from this is, be careful about what you do. Even if you are doing the right thing, even if you feel like you're doing the right thing, it's not always going to be the right thing to those around you. So just make sure that before you do something that involves another person or other people, try to talk to them and make sure that it's okay with them, even if you say this, even if you do this. We can't live our lives like where we never talk, or because if that were the case, people would never talk. You have to talk. You got to talk. Who you spend your time with is up to you. But if you want to keep good people in your life, watch what you say and do. That's all I can say. And you can't please everybody you know who knows you, but you can at least try. And like I say, if you want to have a good reputation, well, watch what you do, especially when you're in public. Obviously, I want to have a good reputation. I really do. And I hope I never do anything to tarnish that. But obviously, especially when I'm speaking publicly, like in these broadcasts, here's something I do. You know, there have been times when I've touched on big things that are happening in our world that everybody's talking about, but I never mention names. I never mention the city it happened. I don't mention the place it happened at or what. I don't do that because I don't want to look like I'm bad-mouthing people, and I don't want to sound like I'm doing something else. That's why, especially nowadays, I have to be very careful, because when people speak publicly, then, you know, it's usually taken the wrong way, and I don't want that to happen with me at all. That's why I'm very, very careful about what I say here. So, you know. But like I say, just remember our actions always have consequences, and hopefully we want the good ones. The positive consequences, the ones where we don't lose friends and we don't lose people we care about. That's obviously what we want. And hopefully people will still love us and care about us when we try to do these type of things and be considerate. So thank you guys. I appreciate you all being here. Thank you for supporting Catholic Positive Energy. And please check out the YouTube channel, and please subscribe to the YouTube channel if you have not already. Last time I looked, we had 29 subscribers. Let's get to 30. Let's get to 30. So, thank you. God bless. And please remember, dignification is better than criticism.